Hi, this is Jean Henningsen with Monarch Leadership Group, and this is Leading Through Crisis, Making a Difference. And here with me today is Beth McCall. She is the Executive Director for the Marion County Children's Alliance, and she is also a school board member for Marion County Public Schools. Welcome, Beth.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here today.
Yes, thank you so much for taking the time. So you're involved in so much, not just with these two organizations, but in our community. You're very involved. And, you know, probably like a lot of other people, suddenly all those cords are cut and
Yes.
now we're, you know, in isolation and nothing's happening. But I'd really like you to speak to what is still going on at Marion County Children's Alliance and our public school system behind the scenes, why all of us have been at home.
Yeah, you know, it has been an incredibly interesting time. And first of all, let me say that I am very, very proud of everybody in the school system and at the Children's Alliance, because they have totally stepped up to the plate and rethought how they're going to work, rethought how they're going to teach, rethought how we're feeding kids. And it has been really amazing to me that everybody's doing so well. So they took about, you know, the school system took a couple of weeks to figure it out. But what I'm seeing with the teachers, and I really think that learning and teaching is going to have a new face when we get out of all of this. I think digital learning will be here to stay in some form, although we already had digital classrooms and all of that. But I really think we're going to see some good changes. And we've got a lot of kids that are doing incredibly well learning digitally. The other side of that is it becomes an equity issue, of course. How do we make it equitable for all of our children? And we are struggling with that. And I don't know that there will be an answer. I believe that we're trying to make sure that the achievement gap's not great, but I think it is going to be great. I think we're going to see when we get back in that classroom in whatever form that is, there's going to be some gaps. And probably bigger gaps than we've experienced in a while.
Sure.
So, everybody is doing very well. For the Children's Alliance, I have to tell you, my staff at the Children's Alliance is an outstanding staff, and they are so used to working independently anyway. I'm a part-time executive director, so they are very used to working independently. They have had to learn a whole new way of work as well. But they've done it, and they've done it very well. I'm really proud of them. I check in with them on a very regular basis, but they're doing well, and they're doing their jobs.
Excellent. And are they working remotely, Beth?
Yes, everybody right now at the Children's Alliance is working remotely. I'll tell you what has been not a problem because we've solved it, but with a couple of our grants, especially our new DJJ grant, which is a total tutoring and mentoring grant where we have to have that face-to-face contact, and those deliverables have to meet a certain number in order for us to get the reimbursement for the grant. But Kelly and Dominic, who run that grant, they have found a way, and they are mentoring and tutoring virtually. They are getting on the phone and they're checking on these kids. Kelly, who's actually the coordinator of the grant with the young women that she's mentoring, she's actually delivering crafts to their front door, and then they get on a Zoom meeting and they all do crafts together. And
nice.
They really, really made it. They have made it work. And of course, our opioid and heroin task force, which Nancy runs, is very busy at work, but it's all virtual. And I'm not sure if you're aware, but we had a board meeting the other day, and Chief Graham was telling us that the the overdoses and the deaths are up for our county because of this crisis. I'm sure people are so stressed out. But everybody, my staff is fabulous. They found a way. Monica has found a way. She's her backpack program that we do every year at Ed Crosty. She's doing a drive-through. So Friends Recycling are opening their lot and letting us do a drive-through. So it's been, you know, there's a lot of creativity going on, which makes me very proud of all the work with the Alliance and with the school system.
Sure, sure. Well, without a doubt, that's what I keep hearing, is that people have had to be creative because
Absolutely.
you have these in-person interactions, and suddenly you have to figure out how do we still provide them, but do it virtually and with as little touch and FaceTime as possible. So it sounds like all the services that you provide through Marion County Children's Alliance, your staff has found a way to still make those happen.
They have. Our SAD clubs are meeting. Like I said, the mentoring and tutoring is going on. Our Community Council Against Substance Abuse task force continues to meet. So everybody has found a way to continue doing what they're doing. Monica, of course, with her domestic violence task force, they are still meeting through Zoom and able to take care of women that need help.
That's wonderful, because I interviewed Sheriff Billy Woods last week, and he was talking about domestic violence cases and how they've been on the rise. Yes. So I'm really happy to hear that Monica's still doing her good work.
Oh,
that's
absolutely.
Great.
Absolutely.
That's great. So given that things have changed and your staff is working remotely and they're working differently, how are they doing in terms of their stress level and the uncertainty and the change and just everything that's happened?
Well, and many of them are also schooling their children. They have children that are working virtually for school. Especially with some of my younger ones, my young moms, the stress level is pretty high. And I'm working, trying to convince them, you know, find ways to help yourself relieve that stress. But it is because they're trying to work, they're trying to teach their children, they're taking care of households. So all of a sudden, all of this has been put on them, and it's very stressful. You know, and just my own children. I see the stress in them because now they are their mom, their teacher, their, you know, everything. So I'm concerned about our young families and the stress that this has put on them. And I'm hoping that they're getting out and walking, that they're getting themselves away from the situations for a while by just getting outside, taking deep breaths, just, you know, spiritually opening your minds, and I hope they're taking advantage of that.
Now, you're speaking to the parents of the families of school-age children, and I'm wondering, is the school board, is the county doing anything to reach out to parents and maybe to provide resources so that those parents that do feel like they're struggling and having a hard time with this, that they're getting some kind of strategies or techniques that they can use, like you're mentioning?
Well, to be very honest with you, Jean, I'm not sure that the school is reaching out for those reasons, although our teachers are connecting with those families on a very regular basis. So there is a very good chance that those conversations are going on. I know our social workers, our psychologists, they're all very, very busy now reaching out to families and trying to help solve some of those problems. So, you know, it's just a difficult situation because, you know, isolation, even when you're with your family members, we are social creatures. And we cannot be with our friends, when our children cannot get out with their friends, play sports, do the things they're normally doing. So the stress level on the children is high too. And then, you know, parents' friends are usually those sports friends and what their kids are doing. And so I just think there's a lot. And I think when our children get back into school, and I said this at a workshop the other day, I think we're going to have to really look at the trauma and the stress that has been put on our children. And before we really get into teaching, we're going to have to address that. Because even my grandchildren, your daughter, they've been away from their friends. Yeah. They've been away from their activities. Their norm has been upset. And when they get back in the classroom, they've learned that this virus, they can't be around people because they could get sick. So we're going to have to deal with all of that, with the fear. So I think coming back into school and coming back into places where children are together, I think we're going to have to deal with things in a whole different way. And I don't know what that looks like yet.
Yes. Well, I'm so glad that you mentioned the stress on the children, because I think that's something that a lot of us have overlooked. You know, we can clearly see the increase in alcohol consumption, in drug use, in domestic violence. But what evidence do we see of the stress on the children? And as you mentioned, the teachers are going to be the ones that, other than aware parents, which hopefully we have more of those than not, are going to be the ones that are going to be most in touch with this. So yes, once they return to school and reintegrate, it'll be really interesting. And I'm glad that as a school board member, you all are already having these conversations and anticipating this possible trauma and how you're going to respond to it.
Well, and I will tell you that we are, the new mental health plan, part of it is training on for our teachers and all of those that work with our children when they get back into those classrooms, to help identify those children that truly need the resources. So, and you know, it'll be a long time before August, and if we get back into the classroom then. And so we haven't had eyes on these children in a longer period than we've ever had before. So it's going to be very different.
Mm-hmm. Yes, for sure. So being a leader of a nonprofit organization and also being a leader in our school board system, tell me, what do you see as real key components, just really important competencies for leaders to have when they're leading an organization through a crisis like this?
Absolutely. Well, first, I think you have to be calm. You have to show strength, calm strength. I think that you have to sit back, and when decisions are being made, really think about what are the unintentional consequences that could come from these decisions. An example of that would be the way that we have sent our folks back to work in the school system. We've got a hybrid model where our teachers can teach in their classroom or teach at home, but we have some essential workers in the school system that cannot work remotely. They just can't. Their jobs don't allow that. The painters, the maintenance men, those that take care of our grounds. So to find ways to work with them when they fit into those categories, and when there are other funds available for the FMLA, but even some of our workers won't fit into that, but they're afraid to go to work. So how do we work with our policies to be sure that those workers feel safe, that we can provide some type of incentives for them if they can't come to work, but also to think through what are those unintentional consequences of changing those policies even for a short period of time. So I think because this is such uncharted waters, one of my suggestions is that you make your pros and your cons list, and you try to think of every single unintentional consequence that could happen if you make this decision.
Yes, yes, that's a very good point. Looking at it from different perspectives and different angles
Yes,
of the situation.
absolutely.
Yes.
And because, you know, there are always times when we make decisions and then there is a consequence that happens that we weren't thinking could happen, and then it kind of upsets the apple cart sometimes. So I think especially in this type of crisis, we really have to think through that. So those are the things I'm trying to do. Is I'm trying to stay calm. I'm trying to show confidence and assurance for my staff that I do think that we're going to get through this. And then any decision that I make, I try to weigh those unintentional consequences.
Mm-hmm. Yes, beautiful, wonderful. I love the calm confidence. I think that's really critical, for sure.
Well, I think we have to be a role model for that.
Mm-hmm. So both organizations that you're involved with give a lot to the community anyway. What have you all done? Is there anything specifically that either organization has done during this crisis, maybe that's a little different to help meet the needs in our community?
Well, I can tell you that through the grab-and-go meals that the school system is providing, as of last week, we'd served 350,000 meals.
Oh, wow.
And 50,000 meals. That's just the school district. And then, of course, you know, I've been very involved with Interfaith and the Backpack for Kids program. So we are still serving close to 1,000 kids on the weekends through the Backpack program. And then all of the trying to get supplies to kids that don't have them and dropping things off. So, you know, we're doing that. Monica's back to school drive that she's going to have is going to look very different. She's trying to meet those needs. We are increasing the number of backpacks that we're giving away, thanks to the school system. The school system has partnered with the Children's Alliance for this program. So an increased number in backpacks, because we think parents are going to have a hard time purchasing supplies this year. So those things, you know, feeding our kids, making sure they're fed was a top priority for us.
Yes, no, that's wonderful. I love that the school system is providing these grab-and-go meals. Of course, I've heard that in the messages that I've received as a parent, and everything that Interfaith is doing. I mean, you know, that's amazing, because talk about stress level. Yes. If you can provide food, then that is going to relieve at least one stressor for those families.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of food banks that are helping out. Wings of Faith Church has a drive-by through. Actually, the YMCA is having one this week. I'll send you that flyer. And there's a lot of different organizations that are hosting food drives and meal drives and to help feed our community. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So what can your neighbor do? If someone were to say to you, Beth, I don't work for an organization like you do, what can I do to make a difference in our community during this time? What would you tell them?
So what I would tell them is the needs of nonprofits are going to increase. We're already seeing a lack of funding. And the needs of our nonprofit community through all of this, the services they provide are going to increase. So people need to give. They need to reach deep into their pockets, and they need to give. They need to participate in food drives. If they are comfortable mentoring online, they need to mentor. But I will tell you, the main need is going to be a financial need for our nonprofits to be able to provide the services. I mean, we are all seeing the funding go down. Now, I think our human services nonprofits right now, the food banks and stuff, people are giving, but I do see a decline in the other services. So I have a very large concern about some of our nonprofits being able to survive the next couple of years. And the services they provide are vital to our community. Think about what our community would be if it were not for your nonprofits. Think about that. I mean, that's a pretty scary thing because we do provide so much for our community. So that is my fear, that the funding will decrease dramatically when at a time when we need it to increase.
Yes, yes. And Lauren with the Community Foundation, she shared a similar feeling that the needs go up during a time like this for nonprofits, but yet the funding goes down. So, you know, we need to create some kind of balance. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to provide the services that people need.
That's correct.
You know, as much as our for-profit organizations may be suffering, some are thriving, some not so much.
Right.
We may need to rely on them as well as individuals to help reinforce and strengthen that foundation of our nonprofits.
Absolutely. And we'll be helping some of the people of some of those businesses that don't unfortunately make it. So, you know, it's going to go on for a while. When we finally see that great big blue sky again with the sun shining, the residual effects are going to go on for quite some time. So,
yes, I'm the eternal optimist, but listening to you, I mean, you know, I also don't walk around with blinders on either. And I think a lot of people know that it's not over just because businesses are starting to reopen now.
Correct.
Definitely not over. Yes.
Correct. And, you know, the stress level, because there is no vaccine, because there's no cure at this time. So that fear and stress is going to continue for a while. And I think that even when we are back to normal, I'm not sure that those great big venues are going to happen for, you know, quite some time.
Right. You're referring to all the nonprofit events.
Yeah.
Where we put 200 to 400 people in a room.
Correct.
Yeah.
So the events will be down, and you know, we had to reschedule the Children's Alliance Gala, and it's set for September 17th. You know, we usually have close to 200 people. Well, are we going to be able to do that? I hope so, because that's a large fundraiser for us. But are we actually going to be able to do it? So I think we're going to have to really think outside of our fundraising boxes. And I think that one of the things that the nonprofits can do that I'm going to encourage them to do is take a look at the services that you offer and what are the services that at this time and over the next couple of years will have the greatest impact on our community, on helping our community recover. And those are the things that we should be asking money for. Mm-hmm. So we do a lot of great things. What are those programs and projects that are going to directly impact and make a difference in our community as we begin to recover from this? And that's what we need to look at. Yes,
that is a very good point. Thank you for saying that. And that is a beautiful place to end, actually. A great thought to leave us with. So thank you so much, Beth, for your time. I know you're very busy trying to keep both of these organizations going because they did not stop during all of this. So we appreciate your leadership in our community and all that you do to make a difference.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure.